You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. Disney.
Well, we're so glad to see so many coming in on this cold night, and we're really, really happy to see what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Friends, it's not good. It's really not good. They are getting in big time trouble all around the world. More and more people are leaving the Jehovah's Witness religion. They are kind of suggesting that everything is wonderful, but it really isn't. We all know it. We all know they're not telling us the truth. Well, we have a woman coming on here tonight. She's coming in from California. She's a former Jehovah's Witness, and she knows a lot about the Watchtower. So her name is Anne Marie. Let's say hello to Anne Marie. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. Happy Six Screen Saturday. It's the best night of the week.
Well, I'll tell you, it seems to be, at least for so many people, they love to come in and listen to people calling in from all over the world, Anne Marie. It's amazing to me, isn't it?
Oh, brother, it is so amazing. And every time I go on Reddit, it's getting to where like 3 times. The average now I counted is about 3 times every day. I am finding a new person on Reddit saying, I just woke up. I need a plan. Somebody help me. I just got it. This tripped me, to wake up, 2. And no, it's been about 3, sometimes 4 in one day. And then the very next day, there are 3 or 4 more every day, Rick.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I find that at any given time, there's 200 or 300 people doing live chat. So, more and more people are realizing, oh, yeah, they're on there. So, there's like close to 100,000. I think there might even be over 100,000 people now that have, signed in and joined up for Reddit X-Witness JW. So it's just amazing, too. And also we've seen traffic here at the Six Screens increase, and a lot of new people that are listening in. A lot of new people chatting in the chat rooms on the Facebook and on YouTube. So a lot of the people that have websites and do podcasts, they're noticing a big difference as well. More and more people are starting to wake up. They're smelling the coffee. They're finding out what's going on behind the Watchtower.
Well, thank God for the platform that you provide, not only for shows by ex-Jehovah's Witness members. You let everybody just talk freely, and that's great, unless things get really, really crazy. But I mean, generally, you provide this calm, welcoming, safe place. And I think more and more, however the Lord shows them, they are coming to know that there is somewhere that they can go live and speak freely, cry, tell of their experience, what they're going through, have a comment, and everybody listening gets it. That is a wonderful thing, my brother.
Yeah, no, that is something that I often thought about. I know my former wife and I, we would have listened in like crazy to a program like this. When we were first getting out, we couldn't get enough. We really couldn't. Of course, Reddit wasn't around then. There wasn't many YouTube video people doing videos then. So right now there's a proliferation of all kinds of negative information about the Watchtower that people can get. But, you roll the clocks back 15, 20 years ago, there wasn't much you could really find out about them. A lot of people, in fact, they felt like when they would disfellowship that they were the only ones in the world that were hurting like that. But now all of a sudden we're able to come together and we're all in the same community and we all have the same stories to share, Anne-Marie.
That is so true. I'll never forget, I think in 2001, when I first got my computer, well, I had it before, but I had never thought of going on the internet to see if there was any information on Jehovah's Witnesses. It just never occurred to me. And one day I thought, well, let's see what happens. And I put in Jehovah's Witnesses and there wasn't much. But when I added the word disfellowship, oh my God, even back then it was just so much. There was so much there. And I discovered a XJW forum, and that's what kept me going for a while. But to discover the 6 screens, I still don't know how in the world I found you, Rick. But when I discovered the 6 screens and I called in, it was at night, and I was shocked. I was hearing real people in live time that were talking about things that I know what they're talking about. Oh my God, I know what they're talking about. They're like me. Before then, I felt so alone. I did feel like I was the only one.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people felt. Did you want to say something, Grace? Go ahead, Grace.
Hello, have you addressed the show yet, or
Have we what?
Have we
no?
addressed?
But Anne-Marie usually addressed the show in the beginning.
Well, yeah, we haven't addressed the show yet. We just generally, if we have time, like to kind of chit chat and catch up on things and, kind of set the tone, because this is the first show of the weekend. Hi, Grace. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, and what we do too, Grace, is we usually warm up for a few minutes because we allow people coming in. Gives them a chance to come in, settle down a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna cut Anne-Marie loose if she likes, and she can tell us what she'll be talking about tonight, Anne-Marie. But I'm here. We got a lot of people coming in already. So why don't you speak to the audience, Anne-Marie, and you just let me know if you need me. I'll be here.
Oh, thank you so much. I finally got my husband's phone to work to unmute when I needed it. It wouldn't unmute before, so I'm on his phone. Sorry for the noise. I'm outside. I want to welcome everybody into today's show. Today is February 22nd, 2025, and I can't help but remember every time I say the date that we were all terrified of 1975, and here we are 50 years later. But I want to welcome everybody into today's show, the first show of the weekend, touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, as we all were, even those that weren't in the Watchtower. They were touched by the tentacles too. Our non-JW family, our non-JW friends. And I wanted to talk about Armageddon. And we don't really talk about Armageddon very much. We refer to it, but we don't really talk about Armageddon. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Is there anybody that would like to call in, say hello, have a comment?
Hi, this is Grace from Sweden. But before I address Armageddon, I wanted to say that today in Sweden was the first time that the elders' wives were supposed to be invited to the meeting. But what happened was, it was just a show, a con, because it was not for real. But in fact, what happens was the elders, the men, had meeting first, and then after they were finished with the real meeting, then they had the fake meeting afterwards, inviting the wives. And I know this elder's wife, she was so excited that she was going to be invited. But I think this is just a show. I mean, it's not for real. If you can't be at the first meeting, you're going to come to some after meeting. It's just a fake. They're just trying to please women without really giving them anything at all. And I'm really upset about this. But about Armageddon, well, I guess they have been talking about it a lot lately. Like, it can happen any day now, blah, blah, blah. That's what they say to me all the time. So that's just what's going on in the Jehovah's Witness lately. I have noticed they talk a lot about Armageddon.
Thank you. So, Grace, I'm sorry I wasn't really clear on what you were saying that they were inviting. I didn't catch the word that you said. What was that, dear? They were inviting.
They were inviting the elders, the men, they have wives. So for the first time in Jehovah's Witness history, the wives were to be invited to the meeting with elders.
Oh, elders and their wives. How strange. They're always trying some new glitch. Something to make the witnesses feel that there's something new or some kind of a flickering of some kind of new light. It's just, it's mind-boggling, Grace. It's mind-boggling, definitely. Is there anything else you wanted to add to your comment, my dear?
I'm just so annoyed. I mean, I would like to hear what other people think, but I'm just so annoyed that it was a big thing that the wives were supposed to be invited. And then when push comes to shove, the elders have their own meeting with the men first, the real meeting, and then after, long time after that in the afternoon, then all of a sudden the wives can come in for a little small fake meeting afterwards. It's just a show. It's not anything really. They didn't get anything really. Just fake. Well, thank you from me. Bye-bye.
Hi,
Thank
Anne
you.
Marie.
Hi, how
Hi.
who's this? Hi.
King of the Dots.
Hi.
I haven't talked to you in a while.
I know. What's up with that?
It's my sleep schedule. I've been hibernating most of the winter. I'm retired, and I can't get a sleep schedule down pat. And I usually stay up late on the night Rick's on, but I'm not doing so well. But I've been doing some poems on Rick. I got a short poem. You want to hear it?
Oh, let's hear it, my dear.
Okay. It's quirky, but it's a good poem. The theocratic rash. It was on my butt, my tongue, my neck, and my trusty Bible thumb. It spread to my brain, and people told me I was insane. Then it appeared in the mirror. My wrinkles were like holy terror. I was old as sin. How did this happen? The elders told me it was just my brain chemistry. No real mystery. Nothing to see here. Don't look at us. Take a pill and stand still and see the mightiness of Jehovah. I said, I don't think so. I think it's better to leave than pill pop into eternity. That's actually based on my personal experience.
I would assume so. They always say that when you're a writer, you should write what you know about. And that, I'm glad it's on the archives because I think I'm going to go back and listen to what you just said again. That was pretty powerful, straight up. Good for you.
Well, it's happening to a lot of long timers. And we were told, it's just a brain chemistry thing. Take a pill and you'll see the mightiness of Jehovah. Everything will be all right. And I resent that. I don't think most normal people think you need medication to stay in a religion. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Okay. So is there anything else you want to add? Want to get into the show? Go ahead.
Yeah, there might be something else I wanted to add. I looked at a site today, a witness site, and it was about beards from 2 years ago. And one person said, well, we know the elders often go to extremes of rules. Then someone said, I really don't like to hear anyone say things like that. It slowly undermines our trust and respect for the elder body. Then someone retorts, and even if they are wrong, we must remember Jehovah put them there and allows it to happen, perhaps on purpose to help the congregation work on patience and love. Right. That's right. So it's God's will that we're all miserable in the cult. And of course, from 2 years ago, I'm not going to get on there, but it's like, are you insane?
Yeah, pretty much.
So I do stir the pot up. I stir my own pot up. I don't need anybody to stir it up for me. Because like you may know, I have a younger brother who's an elder. I studied with, I converted him. Now he's a complete theocratic a-hole, quite frankly. Terrible. He's become a terrible human being. I mean, my mom died 15 months ago, and he has not been over to visit my dad since the funeral. I mean,
what a shame.
It's pretty pitiful.
Yeah.
And anyway, his initials are RK. If anybody out there knows what I'm talking about, Okay, Anne Marie, I'm going to let you go for now.
Well, King of the Dots, I want to thank you for calling in and sharing
I
your
want
thoughts.
to tell you, I'm going to dedicate that poem to Hazel.
Aw.
Suicides. That's who I'm dedicating to, because she's always was an inspiration to me.
Well, I hope
Okay.
she hears this, and that I know she will appreciate it, because that was a pretty cool poem, King of the Dots, very much so.
Okay, I actually wrote 20 of them last week, all apostate poetry. But I'm not going to, I will read some more later. You'll just have to wait with bated breath. Okay, we will talk to you later, Marie. Thank you.
Well, thank you, my brother. So I want to welcome everyone again into the show. I want to welcome the PIMQs first, those who are physically in the Watchtower, but mentally they are questioning. They're in between being a PME, physically in, mentally in, where their brain is completely taken over by the mind control of the Watchtower. And the PMOs who are physically in the Watchtower, but mentally they are out, they are awake, they've done the research, and they know the Watchtower for what it is, but for whatever reason, usually it's to not lose their family, hoping that they can somehow help some of their family to get out, so they stay in the Watchtower acting like the perfect witness and hoping they don't get ratted out. But the PIMQs, physically in, mentally questioning, a lot of times they're very scared, because part of the programming of the Watchtower is if you question the governing body in any way, you're questioning Jehovah, because the governing body is Jehovah's arrangement. And they're always holding control and fear over the members. It's always Jehovah this, Jehovah that, but what they're really saying is them. It's like one caller said 2 weeks ago on the show, the only real freedom you have in Watchtower is the freedom to worship the governing body. And that hit me hard, because it's so, so true. So I want to welcome the PIMQs. If they're searching and they happen to listen to this later in the archives, or maybe they're listening right now, this is a safe place. You're not crazy. It's not Satan. I believe it's your spirit, or maybe Holy Spirit, trying to help you to wake up and to not be afraid. Because remember, fear is false evidence appearing real. The fear that Watchtower installed in all of us, the fear of dying at Armageddon, the fear of losing your family if you ever leave, if you do anything wrong or ever lose favor in the Watchtower, you're going to die at Armageddon. It's a fear that we were ingrained with. And that's the bottom line to me, is that fear of dying at Armageddon. The subject of today that I wanted to bring up, and I hope everybody will be patient with me, I ran across a After Armageddon diary. It's a fictitious diary, but it was written by an ex-JW that, well, the story is, it was a faithful JW young brother who had survived Armageddon, and he started keeping a journal the day after Armageddon. And I've never shared it before, but I think it's very important. And the reason is because even though we were all inculcated with the fear of Armageddon, of dying at Armageddon, of losing out on life if we screwed up in any way, we never really talk about it. I don't think most of us, myself anyway, ever really thought the entire Armageddon issue through. We know that in the Bible, from what I saw, I never saw anywhere in the scriptures where Jesus warned about Armageddon, or you better be careful or you'll die at Armageddon. My Father will destroy you at Armageddon if you're not faithful and doing everything right, and so on. And I never remember reading anything about Jesus warning us, or the apostles warning us, that 2,000 years from now, there's going to be an organization of uninspired, fallible men who are imperfect and make mistakes, but you have to follow them and believe whatever they tell you. And when they change their beliefs,
calling it new light, saying they got new understanding, and oh, Jehovah helped us to see this. You have to just forget what you believed before that they taught you was truth and adjust your thinking. And hasn't Watchtower changed so much of what we thought was the truth? I can't even go back to the Watchtower. My whole JW family thinks I'm crazy for not going back to the Watchtower. But I'm thinking, even if I did go back, there's no going back because the Watchtower I left doesn't exist anymore. We all know that. Anyway, I'm hoping that I can get through this diary, and I'm hoping you guys will listen and wait until I'm finished reading before you comment, but I hope you do listen. This Armageddon diary is a personal account written by a young Jehovah's Witness brother, very faithful, who survived what he calls the Big A. And this Armageddon diary is a personal account of the days following Armageddon. It is so realistically written that I felt that I was right there with the young brother who wrote it, that I was caught up in the very realistic details of what would happen, or what very well would happen following the days after Armageddon, and I cringed. So I, again, am hoping that you guys will let me read it and tell me what you think. It starts with day one. This is what this young brother wrote. Again, this is a fictitious account. Day one, the brother writes, well, the Big A is over and I survived. I made it to the Kingdom Hall this morning. By the end of the day, most of the congregation had gathered at the Kingdom Hall. I guess we're still in a state of shock. We all hugged each other, and then we went looking around for others. Some brothers and sisters are still missing. Ed Thorne, our presiding overseer, told us that those who were missing should have spent more time in field service. Day two, Brother Thorne called a special meeting this morning. He announced that he and the other elders would now be assuming full authority over our new community until contact is reestablished with Watchtower headquarters. All decisions regarding community regulations, living arrangements, work assignments, and all other matters will be decided or resolved at the sole discretion of the elders. The first new rule was not long in coming. All brothers and sisters are now required to report to the Kingdom Hall at 8 o'clock in the morning to receive work assignments and other instructions. Day three, Brother Thorne has assigned me to burial detail. It seems that the majority of us single brothers have been assigned to this most unpleasant duty. All the dead bodies are already starting to get to me. It sickens me to watch as the birds and other animals scavenge through the rotting corpses. I saw a raven pluck out an eyeball today. So disgusting. Rob Johnson got a bulldozer running and has begun to dig one of several huge common graves. My job is to go around collecting bodies and to load them into the back of a pickup truck. The smell is terrible. Day four. Well, we had our first judicial hearing today. Larry and Sue Winters had moved into the McRae mansion in what was once the exclusive Cypress Oaks subdivision. The problem was that Sister Thorne had already had her eye on the place, and as wife of the presiding overseer, she figured that she should have her first choice. Brother Thorne told Brother and Sister Winters that they had no right to claim anything without the expressed approval of the elders. They were then ordered to be out of the house by nightfall. The Winters were very disappointed, but they agreed to move out. Day five. Today at the morning meeting, the Thornes announced that they would be moving into the McRae place. The Winters were livid, but they didn't say anything. It was also announced that the surrounding estate homes had been assigned to the other elders. Position has its privilege, even in the New World. Some of the brothers are already calling the area Elder Hill. It was also announced that anyone wanting to appropriate a home must first file a written request with the elders. I have decided to remain in my own home. It just didn't seem right to move into someone else's home, even if they were worldly. I feel sad when I go into a house and I see all the family pictures and personal belongings. Most of the others don't seem to feel the way I do. It doesn't seem to bother them to loot the dead. Day 8. Well, this morning at the meeting, the elders announced that there was to be a new meeting schedule. On Sunday, we will still have the public talk, followed by a study of old Watchtower articles until we get new magazines. On Tuesday night, we will have a congregational book study. The service meeting has been canceled. No need for it anymore, along with the ministry school. These have been replaced by an instructional session to be held on Friday nights. This new meeting will instruct us on how to conduct ourselves in the New World Society. The best thing is, of course, no more field service. Day 10. This burial work is taking a heavy toll on me. I just can't help but feel saddened at the waste of so much human life. Why couldn't Jehovah have found a way to save more people? The children are the worst, clutched in their mother's arms or clinging to one another. I can't stand to see their little bodies anymore. I don't think I will report for work tomorrow. Day 11. I didn't report for work today. Ed Thorne came by later in the morning and asked me why I wasn't at work. I told him that I didn't feel well. He told me that I had better get back to work, that everyone feels well all the time in the new world. He also told me that depression and mental anxiety were things of the past. Of course, he doesn't have to bury the bodies. Day 14. It's been 2 weeks now. I really miss things like electricity and running water. I wonder if we'll ever get everything working again. Last night, Rob Johnson and I borrowed a generator from the hall, and we hooked it up to my television and VCR. We had such a great time just relaxing and watching old Star Trek videos and a tape of last year's Super Bowl. I really miss television. Day 15. At the morning meeting, Brother Thorne publicly reprimanded Rob and me for watching television. The elders have now decided that, henceforth, watching videos is prohibited since we do not want our paradise to be contaminated by the old world. Ed Thorne speculated that one day we might have theocratic television from the society. The Watchtower channel? Spare me. This was written like 12 years ago. Also, the elders got really upset at me after I was caught with the book Watchtower Doctrines for Dummies. It seems that they even consider this book to be apostate literature, even though the content is straight from our own publications and is unadulterated in any way. Day 20. Still no word from the society. We have spoken to representatives from surrounding congregations, but the elders are not allowing anyone to travel. Carol Woods wanted to visit her sister in the next county to see if she made it through okay, but Brother Thorne told her to stay put and to be patient. After all, he said she would have plenty of time to see her sister later. I really felt that that was a cruel and insensitive thing to say. Day 30. We finally got most of the burial work done. I am so exhausted and so relieved. The scavenger birds are still hanging around. I have grown to hate the sight of those fat, disgusting creatures. One of the damn things tried to attack me today. I think that they have acquired a real taste for human flesh. Day 45. Many of the other brothers and sisters are getting pretty sick of being bossed around by the elders. They run things like an old southern plantation. We're the slaves and they're the overseers. I have been reassigned to work on the communal farm. It is hard work, but it is an improvement over the burial detail. Sam Green is organizing a committee to speak to the elders about the complaints that we all have. Day 47. Surprise! The elders found out about Sam Green's attempted rebellion. At the morning meeting, he was publicly reproved and told to pray for a humble spirit. No one is to speak to him until he has shown proper repentance. I can't believe that we are now disfellowshipping people in the new world. Day 51. Today, a messenger finally arrived from the society. Wade Peters, a young Bethelite, arrived on horseback. He told us that the society has moved all the headquarters staff to Patterson after the destruction of New York City. We also received the first post-Armageddon Watchtower, now to be issued quarterly. Many of us had hoped that it would contain some information that would allow us more personal freedom, but we were disappointed to only read that we were to keep on following the instruction of the local elders until further notice, that we were to remain respectful and obedient. He also gave all the elders a copy of a new procedural manual entitled Organization for the New World, but of course none of us was allowed to see it. Day 69. My best friend got married today in a shotgun wedding. Rob and Sally Kennedy had been discovered together while engaged in a heavy kissing session. After a judicial meeting, Brother Thorne announced that they were now married, without any ceremony or anything. Rob objected strenuously, explaining that he and Sally had not had sex. Brother Thorne, however, declared that the decision was in keeping with the new elder procedural manual. Sally seems happy enough, but Rob is in a state of shock. I remember that he had once told me that he liked Sally's body, but that he thought that she was just about as dumb and boring as a box of rocks. And now he is married to her forever. I'll have to remember to keep my hands in my pockets if I date any sisters. Day 80. The newlyweds are not getting along. There has been a lot of gossip about their horrible spats. Rob confided to me today that he was so desperate that he went to the elders in an attempt to get the marriage annulled. They told him that according to the society's new procedural manual, no divorces or annulments will be allowed for any reason. Also, all marriages now have to be approved by the local body of elders. Day 81. Sam Green was reinstated today. He is still unhappy, but he is now keeping his thoughts to himself. Day 89. We are all in a state of shock. Rob committed suicide today. I guess the idea of spending eternity with Sally was just too much for him. The elders refused to allow any of us to hold any kind of memorial service for him. I volunteered to bury my friend. Brother Thorne said to put him in one of the common graves where we had put the worldly people. No one came to the gravesite, not even his widow. I stood there alone over his grave, and I said a prayer for my friend. I will miss Rob greatly. Day 100. Life is becoming more and more miserable for many of us. The elders keep placing more and more rules on us every day. We are told that we must lead holy lives of service and submission. No dissent or discussion is allowed. It seems that there are a lot of us that feel that we had a lot more freedom before Armageddon. I never thought that I would ever be feeling nostalgic about the old world. Day 111. I can't take it here anymore. I am going to travel to my brother's place, which is about 100 miles from here. Traveling on foot, I think I can make it in about 10 days. I wish I could get some gasoline for my car, but I'd be sure to be caught. I'll have to sneak out since the elders still aren't giving anyone permission to travel. I have stored some food and water, and I plan to leave tonight after the curfew. I hope my brother is still alive. Maybe he will know if Mom and Dad are okay. Day 112. I can hardly believe I made it out of town today. I wonder if they have missed me yet. The destruction all over the countryside is just incredible. How will we ever rebuild everything? I've already seen quite a few skeletons. I guess there is still a lot of burial work to be done before we can build a paradise. Day 113. I ran into a group of brothers from the Westview congregation. I was detained at gunpoint. It seems that Brother Thorne had gotten word to them to be on the lookout for me. I am furious. I am not a criminal. Why am I not free to visit my own brother? Why do I need permission to visit my own family? Day 114. Ed Thorne and 2 ministerial servants arrived today to escort me back home. They were all carrying guns. Day 115. I was, of course, disfellowshipped at the morning meeting. I have been assigned to latrine duty to help me to attain humility and repentance and respect for authority. Day 123. I finally blew up today at the reindoctrination meeting. I told Ed Thorne that I was sick to death of him acting like a theocratic Hitler. I said that I was leaving the community and that he had better not try to stop me. Big mistake. Thorne then called in his police force and had me arrested. I was shackled hand and foot. I am now being detained under armed guard in a makeshift jail cell in the Kingdom Hall basement. Day 125. A judicial hearing was held today. Ed Thorne acted as head prosecutor. According to normal Watchtower procedure, the hearing was, of course, held in secret. I had no defense counsel, and I could call no witnesses. In the end, I was judged guilty of being an unrepentant apostate. Then I was solemnly informed that according to the Society's instructions, as per their new procedural manual, Organization for the New World, the penalty for apostasy was death by stoning. My execution is scheduled for tomorrow. Day 126. Well, this is the end. Later today, I will be let out for my execution by stoning. I would rather be shot in the back of the head, but the Society obviously feels that stoning provides a better object lesson. If I get a chance, I will throw one of the rocks back at Ed Thorne. The funny thing is that I really don't feel so bad about my impending demise. This New World Society is not my idea of paradise at all, and I really think that I would rather be dead than to live like this. I don't want to live with these people any longer, much less for all eternity. From paradise lost to paradise regained to paradise lost again. So this is what I had worked so hard all my life for. Epilogue. Well, everyone turned out for my stoning, even the kids. Ed Thorne solemnly pronounced my death sentence, and then he quoted scripture telling everyone not to let their eye feel sorry for me, an unrepentant apostate. And no one did. My only regret is that they tied my hands behind my back so that I couldn't return any of their rocks with interest. Not very sporting of them. The last thing I remember seeing before the lights went out was a sickening smirk on Ed Thorne's face, just as one of my oldest friends hurled a huge rock straight at my head. I heard a terrible cracking, and I felt my brain exploding. I guess that's when I died. And then I woke up. I was in heaven, and there was St. Peter just looking at me. "Welcome to paradise, my child," he said as he gently took my hand. Confused and perplexed, I ventured, "But I thought that paradise was back on earth with the Jehovah's Witnesses." "No," he answered with a loving smile, "that was hell." That's the end of the Armageddon diary. If anybody has a thought, any comments, hope you hit *6.
Well, Emery, I'll break the ice here. This is Rick. No, I enjoyed listening to you with that narrative on Armageddon. It really hit home. I'll tell you what, a lot of people, you made quite a bit of reference in there to, burying the dead and bulldozing them over and picking them up and putting them in a pickup truck. That's what we used to always think that was going to happen. And that was a terrible thing for witnesses to think, wow, boy, I'm going to make it to Armageddon, then in a new system, everything's going to be wonderful. Well, we always thought we'd have to clean up. About 8-9 years ago, they did make a change on that. They said that the bodies would not have to be disposed of by the witnesses that made it through Armageddon. But that's what we were always taught. But not now what they're teaching, believe it or not, and they cannot explain it in a reasonable scientific or even biblical fashion. They are now saying that Jehovah is going to use some type of a gas element, a gaseous situation that will remove the bodies so the witnesses who do survive Armageddon won't have to deal with it. Because, I mean, that was really problematic, Anne Marie. I mean, I thought about it. Did I really want to get into the new system and have to pick up dead bodies? So I like the narrative. Thank you for reading it.
Well, I appreciate being allowed to read. It was very depressing. I'm sorry. Did somebody want to speak? Go ahead. I just was thinking, I never really thought it through because they were always shoving beautiful pictures and ideas of paradise, but the Watchtower would always, give us horrible examples of what, different ways that you could die at Jehovah's hands if you weren't faithful. And I remember hearing from the podium so often, what a fearful thing it is to fall into the hands of the living God. So basically it was constant fear of not surviving Armageddon. But I don't think any of us really thought it through. So what if Armageddon comes? What if what they're saying is correct? We survive Armageddon. And then what kind of people are we going to be living with? At least in this world, if we're in the organization, most of us can go home and bitch and moan to ourselves in private. But to me, this diary, which of course is entirely fictitious, but it gives us a good, clear view of what it would more realistically be. It wouldn't be all hearts and flowers and picnics and smiling and singing and everything clean and lovely and wonderful and boring. But, they did often present that we would have to clean up the bodies and it would take a long time to clean up the earth and blah, blah, blah. And then other times, all they would do is show Jehovah's Witnesses coming out of Armageddon untouched, and behind them are cities full of destruction and fire and smoke. But we were fine. Like, I forgot what the scripture is stand still and see the salvation of Jehovah. There was no fear that we had to fear from Armageddon. We would be protected. They've taught all kinds of different things, how happy we should be because, we were in the true organization, the only true religion. We were Jehovah's chosen people. We're going to be protected. We're going to have this beautiful earth like God intended it to be. And then they switch around and they talk about bodies and go bags and running from the Gestapo and people trying to break into where we're hiding and hiding in people's basements and attics. It's just any new concept of fear or any new carrot they can dangle in front of us. It's all over the place. I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses in the Watchtower, we're like ping pong balls, Rick. We're just like ping pong balls. First it's this way, then it's that way. Oh, drop the ball. You better pick it up and get it right. Anybody want to comment? This show is for you. I hope I didn't scare anybody reading that. It scared me when I wrote it. Go ahead.
When the frightening stories are presented so often, and then they'll present a happy paradise picture. I looked at some material last week on a podcast. When that's done to the human mind, it destroys the ability to think critically. So they ping-ponged around on purpose.
Oh, no doubt.
And, I used to roll all those scenarios in my head, especially from childhood on, because I was born in. And the idea of heaven, I had some relatives that believed that, but, my immediate family, we were always at the Kingdom Hall. So I was cleaning my house to move, and I had a wonderful house painter. And he really saved my sanity in a way. He said, put some happy music on, and he had little messages that came with every morning coming to paint my house. So he saw some of the witness material and he says, that's not true.
So I sat there with that for a while, and I had been away from the Kingdom Hall for a while, but I'd kind of gone back in. And I got my magnifying glass out, and I looked at the wonderful paradise picture that was in a recent publication. And I looked at every person in the picture. And up in the right-hand corner was Harry Houdini, a tombstone, and a little girl.
No
and
way.
I said, the people in this picture are dead. Paradise is when people are dead. And I sat there and I cried because I thought, even though I'd been away for a long time, I thought I was going to be in that line of people walking away from that big city untouched.
Yeah, you remember that picture in the Watchtower too, huh? That was way back.
I do, but this was a more recent one that went with it that had Houdini.
That's
And
crazy.
of course, there's a big story about Houdini that he was going to contact his wife if there was an afterlife, and so every year they'd try because they wanted to believe.
Right.
So the art department has never failed us.
Of course, that was before hiding in people's basements and attics.
Yeah.
Oh God! When they had those SWAT teams, when did they come up with that? Anything to keep the fear alive, right?
Yeah, keep the fear alive. That's their slogan for sure. They got a new one this week that was covered on one of the podcasts. Beautiful cover. They've got this chic New York young couple, they're pioneers, and they got little coats and they look young and hip. And they have this huge angel out by the subway. And then they've got this homeless guy. And I had to laugh because when I lived in the big city, we had a homeless guy that used to tell me about angels all the time.
Aww.
So, so they're bringing angels back, which I think is great.
Well, they always kind of have to keep it new. They're always saying how, they're not like that anymore. Or, did you hear the new light? And man, they just keep you running in circles and semicircles. And I swear to God, they give pretzel a whole new meaning.
Yeah, well, that sometimes they'll bring back a good product. I think Revlon just brought back rum raisin lipstick. I mean, if they got a product that sells the first time, and sometimes people want it back. I think they want angels back. I think people like that.
Yeah, it makes them feel good. Helps take off the stress.
So maybe they'll get some people coming back for that flavor.
Oh my God. Most likely, they're always looking for something. Give us something new. They can't hear the same old, dread and gloom and doom. Time to throw in some more hearts and flowers. Oh, we better put some candy in that mix. Keep them coming. Keep them. Unbelievable. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, we could also ice the Eskimos and probably have, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Would anybody
we were taught?
Go ahead. Dixie, go ahead, sweetie.
I said we were taught to sell that ice to Eskimos. We know all the advertising stuff.
Aren't they good advertisers? Only they just keep changing what they're advertising about. My God, so twisted. I remember one young girl that I was friends with. She said that she had come out of the Watchtower as well, and said that she was at the train station where they used to have witnesses at tables with all the literature spread out, and she started talking to this older gentleman, and she asked him how long he had been in the organization, and he told her about 45 years, and she just looked at him and she said, well, you've been in the organization long enough to see the issues. I mean, don't you see the problems? I mean, what kept you in? Why are you still in? And he said he looked at her with a blank look, and he said, because it's the truth. And she said, even though it keeps changing, it's still the truth. It's a shame how their brains don't work. Anything else, Pixie? I didn't mean to cut you off. Would anybody like to comment and share if maybe you ever really thought about Armageddon and thought about, well, what would it be like if I survived? I mean, what would it really be like? I never thought past that. My whole thing was, I hope to God that God doesn't kill me in Armageddon. You know, I tried so hard to be a good witness the best I could, and always praying to Jehovah to help me to have the right attitude. And, you know, I always wanted to feel like Jehovah wasn't mad at me or disapproving of me. I always wanted to feel like I was all right in front of Jehovah. But I never thought, what would it be like after Armageddon was over? And oh my God, all of the Jehovah's Witnesses that I knew that were arrogant and smug and stuck up and prejudiced and thinking they're better than and so critical and gossiping. I'm like, oh my God, I never thought, what would it be like that those are the only people that I can be with? Everybody else is dead. I just never thought about it until I read that after Armageddon diary. Anybody like to comment or share a thought of you know, maybe how you felt about Armageddon? We were all inculcated with that fear, all of us.
Yeah, hello, Anne Marie.
Hey, hi, Ken. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, trying to survive the cold weather out here.
Aww.
It's starting to brisk break a little bit today. It started to warm up a little bit, but it's been really cold. The wind, the biggest problem is we get this wind chill, and it'll be 20 degrees outside, but the wind chill will bring it down to about 5 or 6 above. At night, of course, it gets down to below 0.
Uh-huh.
But hopefully, according to the weather report, it's going to be a break after today. Of course, they've been saying that for 3 days, so I'll believe it when I see it, but it's not that bad today. Yeah, I didn't get all the program tonight because I've been running around and I got home a little bit late, but I listened to that narrative you had with interest. And I remember reading about all kinds of different doctrines on Armageddon. And as I've said many times before, not only in the Watchtower Society religion, but other religions too, none of these prophecies have ever come true. And that's number one. But I just want to comment a little bit on the Watchtower Society. If what you described there is paradise, you know, I wonder what hell is like.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And the thing is too, that that they're going to the equivalent of heaven and all that, and they're going to be burying dead bodies and all that. Oh, I mean, give me a break. Most of the vast majority of religions, Christian and non-Christian, teach that after this place, you're going to be going into a better place, you know, and so forth. But not Watchtower. They're going to talk about how many people is going to be killed at Armageddon. They're going to be talking about just a handful is going to survive, but amongst those handful there, you might not survive. You don't know exactly. I don't know where they're coming from, but it sounds like just Tales of the Dark Side, Bad Dream, or something like that.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Ken, but what got me the most was how the arrogant elders, now they have full power. And you know what they say, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The way everybody was treated. But what really got me was how quickly a survivor, like the gentleman who wrote this diary, would be condemned to death, that nobody would feel bad for him, nobody would stick up for him, and they're all ready to stone him to death. And I'm like, it just sounds so realistic when we think about the attitude of so many of those who are in power in the Watchtower. They're Hitlers. They're just so unfeeling, uncaring, cold-hearted, dictatorial, tyrannical. Yeah. And it's like so much worse than in this old world
struggling in the Watchtower. Like I said, at least most of us can go home. We can go to our own home. But, wow, this is horrible when you can live in a place where you aren't allowed to do this or aren't allowed to do that, and anything you think of doing, you can't do. And even, trying to get up some group that feels the way you do and, thinking, hey, we can go to the elders and try to lovingly, kindly and respectfully express our concerns and, how we're feeling. And the guy who's leading the group, he gets in trouble and he's so scared, even though he gets reinstated, he's keeping his mouth shut. That's a horrible thing. You're not allowed to speak your heart without fear. It seems that there's more fear in this after Armageddon scenario than any fear that the governing body and the current elders that we would deal with, in the congregation, it's just so much worse. And the whole thing was so depressing. It's like he said in his diary, I don't even feel bad that I'm going to die because I don't want to live like this. How sad, but it just was so realistic to me. If you thought it through, really, what would it be like and who'd be in control? I mean, even the Watchtower from the podium, especially at the congregation, not so much in meetings, but at the circuit conventions, I would hear different brothers get up, different elders, and say that, they were princes and they would be ruling over the witnesses. And that to me sounds kind of scary because I already felt ruled over enough as it was. Any thoughts? Anyone? Ken or anybody else?
Yeah, that's. I just want to add a little bit more. That's really horrible. Their teachings and their doctrines makes me want to go out and have some Limburger cheese sandwiches and German beer. Pure and simple and all that. Makes me even want to have communion with the same kind of stuff. That's how disturbing that stuff is and so forth. I just want to make this other comment too, how Jehovah's Witnesses lie, and just like some other churches lie about the same thing in there. Those laws were not originally even God's laws. Those were made by the rebellious Israelites or the rebellious Hebrews. And if you read the Jewish Torah and everything like that, God condemns them for that. He doesn't give them credit. And he doesn't say that they're going to be able to do that continually in the next life or this life or whatever it is. He says, you're going to pay the price for what you did, But they turn around and they brainwash people with it just like everybody else. But unless you have the gift of discretion and so forth, when you read stuff, when you do research, you're not going to know the difference. But, well, I just hope somebody, with all that power they got, I just hope somebody comes along someplace and finds where the plug is and pulls the plug.
You said it, Ken.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
Okay, well, hit *6 if you have a comment. We'd like to hear from other people, and I'll yield the right away here, and I'll talk to you a little bit later.
I would like to say something.
Thank you, Ken. Go ahead, sister.
Hello.
Oh, okay. I'll wait. I'll wait for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Anne-Marie. This is Shannon. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Danny?
Oh, Shannon.
I'm sorry, Shannon?
My name is Shannon, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How are you, Shannon? What's on your mind?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to say, first of all, I liked your show a couple of weeks ago. Thank you for taking my suggestion about the tall tales. That was very good. I enjoyed it.
Well, it was a great subject. I had to do it right away. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, about this story, it was interesting to listen to. I don't know how, it felt like it was written some time ago, obviously, before internet access or anything like that. But the takeaway I got from the story was that this is not, it was like, this is not God's organization. It isn't. And I wish he had kind of described what Armageddon was like, what it was like, what he saw or whatever. But that's the thing about, I think, being a witness. It's always held over your head. There's no particular I mean, there's some, illustrations about fireballs coming out of the sky or whatever. And,
Yep,
I
I've
know
heard
that. Yeah, and I know that it was a factor in my kind of in my caving into my dad, especially. He would, when I was about 13, he started. Well, actually, the pressure to be baptized started when I was about 10 or 11, and I resisted as long as I could, but it just got worse. And he would hold that over my head, like, well, Armageddon came. Yeah, it was, it's a form of abuse, And some people are, they're tough, by nature. I was a very quiet kid, right? And with an overactive imagination, so I was kind of easily scared into getting baptized. I didn't want to. I never wanted to, and this Armageddon thing was held over my head, and I'm sure that happened to many other witnesses when they were kids too. And yeah, and so it's kind of like it's kind of a form of abuse, really.
It is.
But, yeah. And another funny thing too, I was talking to my mother about it. She's still in, and she was yelling at me for something I said, something that she didn't like, and she said, when you die, you're gonna regret blah blah blah. And I said, oh, do you mean at Armageddon? And the funny thing was that she kind of snapped to, and kind of looked at me like, Armageddon? Okay, well. And it was weird because I thought, then I was thinking, well, what are the witnesses teaching about Armageddon now? Do you have any idea? I mean, are they still teaching the same thing? Are they still bludgeoning people over the head with it? Or, what, do you have any idea? Because I don't know. She doesn't really talk to me about what they're teaching now.
Well, from what I read from current writers on Reddit, which I go on periodically, they're still hammering it down. The shunning, be careful of disobeying or having any kind of disagreement with the Watchtower's governing body, threats, fear, and Armageddon. And like one person said, they're still saying any day could come any time, like it's something we never heard before. I've been hearing it all my life.
Yeah.
So I don't think they would let the fear of Armageddon or the fear of being shunned or fear of not surviving Armageddon, they're not going to let that go. Fear tactics, fear is a very powerful means of control. And if you took away the fear, if you took away the shunning, if you took away the fear of Armageddon, I doubt that we'd have anybody at any Kingdom Hall anywhere sooner or later.
Yeah, well, I know if the religion has to threaten its members with any sort of, punishment like, hell or torture or, eternal damnation or whatever, like I say, get away from it as fast as you can, because, that's not the way to reach a person's heart, is to scare them to death or to threaten their lives. It's just not right.
No, it's not right at all. And the way the elders were portrayed in the scenario of the After Armageddon Diary, it's like, it's always like that. They want to have, I call the Watchtower elders the Gestapo enforcers, because, they are they're like police. On one hand, they're supposed to be loving shepherds, but on the other hand, they're the judicial committee. How are they this and that? It's like the governing body. We're the governing body, but they're also the faithful, discreet slave. It's, you know what? Any sane person with a brain can see that this is all bullshit. It's complete crazy, twisted.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Absolutely. I remember asking my dad that question when I was a kid. I said, are the elders like spiritual policemen? And he said, no.
Really?
Really, yeah. It's funny that I was thinking about that early, and, that didn't sound right. But you know how it is when you're a witness kid, you just shut up and accept, so otherwise you get in trouble.
Always.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'll hang up and I'll continue listening.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much for calling in and sharing your thoughts. And I want to thank you again for that really great subject that you wrote to Rick about 2 weeks ago. I thought that was a great idea. And if you ever come up with anything else, like Rick said, please share it. Or if anybody has any idea of a subject you guys would like to hear discussed on the Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower show, please feel free to email Rick with your idea at jwworldnews@gmail.com. That's jwworldnews@gmail.com. And Rick would be happy to read your email, and I'd be happy to do a show. That was good, Shannon. So they get the thinking cap back
I had
on.
another one from 1963.
Okay.
Yeah, and this sister, her aunt gave her a handbag, so she had this tarot reading crazy aunt, and she had this vintage secondhand handbag. And the handbag spoke to her and told her not to go out in service. Now this was really funny. This was printed in the Watchtower in 1963, decades before the Smurfs.
Okay.
And I just thought it was hilarious. I got a lot of vintage handbags. Not one of them has ever spoken to me.
Well, others have had experiences, and then there are a lot like you, Pixie, that just never had anything weird like that happen. Is there anything you'd like to add?
It's just fiction writing on the part of the writing department.
Well, like Rick said, he's assuming that there are maybe some stories based in truth, but like he said, they're encouraged to embellish, make it fascinating, keep everybody on the edge of their seats.
Yeah,
so
I did have an alligator pocketbook. I missed that one.
Oh, I miss those too. Alligator shoes, alligator pocketbooks, they were the best.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else?
I didn't have to jump over 6 alligators to get to a meeting in the Amazon, though.
Well, I guess you missed an exciting experience, Pixie.
I did. I really did.
There was somebody that was waiting, and I don't know if it was you, Pixie.
No, it was me. Hello.
Hi, what was your name, dear?
Christine. Do you remember me?
Oh, hi,
A long
Christine.
time. Hi, Anna Marie.
Hi. Go ahead, my dear.
Yeah, I don't get on much anymore because I just love listening. I haven't been much.
I know that cognizant discipline. I mean, cognizant.
Hello?
Dissidence. Cognizance.
Okay, can we let let's let Christine speak. I think somebody doesn't know they're muted. They're not muted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's being rude. I think he just doesn't realize he's not muted. I've done that. Christine, please go ahead with your thought, my love.
Well, I'll try, dear. So I'm enjoying the humor of it all, but the fear mongering is not going to stop. But I had something to share that I've never shared publicly. I was in 45 years, long time, like a lot of you.
Oh my God!
And you might remember a little bit of my story, but interesting conclusion that I've come to. I've been out 7 years now.
Congratulations!
Is that I don't know what category I'm in of what percentage of ex-witnesses were like me. I don't know if anybody else was like this. I actually imagined my own paradise. That's kind of interesting. Maybe because I had a big imagination, and I realize now that the whole thing is a fantasy, right? So it was presented as a reality, but for some reason, my thoughts on paradise and the New Order were completely different from what the society presented. I had my own structured paradise I could start my own cult now because I could present a better paradise than they present. My core imagination having to do with the paradise or living under the kingdom was freedom. And that's not promoted in an authoritarian JW organization promotes, authoritarian strict rule. But I pictured paradise and the new world living forever as freedom. So I didn't have the same internal system. I don't know how I stayed in that long, but I didn't swallow their stuff, about the paradise. I would look at the pictures and I would go, no, that's not what paradise, in my mind I'd be going, no, that's not what a picture of paradise is. So I won't go into detail, but, I could write a whole fantasy book based on my version of paradise. Anyway, I don't know if I'm a weirdo or what, but that's the way I've had. Maybe that's the only way I could continue to be in the organization with all the cognitive dissonance. Maybe that was my way of staying in, was I had to formulate my own imagination of what paradise would be. Anyway, those are my thoughts I wanted to share, and maybe somebody else had the same tendency. I don't know.
Well, I don't think you're a weirdo at all. I think you make perfect sense. And, where does the power of imagination come from? I mean, God gave us a lot of good things, in my opinion. He gave us an individuality. He gave us our own mind, the ability to think, the ability to think things through, to be discerning. And he gave us imagination, and we were so kept down of, this is what you have to believe, this is what's real, you better this or that will happen to you. And we weren't really allowed, much less encouraged, to have our own opinion or our own thoughts if it didn't agree with the strict authoritarian belief system and control that Watchtower held over our minds. I just know that when I was a kid, it was so hard because all they talked about were the terrible ways to die under Jehovah's hand, and we better not screw up. And most kids of my generation had nightmares, terrible. I had the most horrible nightmares of Armageddon, people yelling and screaming, the sky turning orange, black, the floods, the earthquakes, tidal waves, the fireballs coming down, the earth opening up, people, screaming and holding on to their babies. And I don't know if you go ahead.
It could be, Anna Marie, there's a big difference between born-ins or children that were very young and they were, this material was put before them, because I came in as a teenager. So I didn't even know about those pictures or those books that had those pictures of Armageddon. I wasn't opened up to them until later on, after being in for a while. They'd have little pictures here and there of Armageddon. But I raised my kids. They were born in. And I used to study the little Bible story book with them, with all the pictures. And it was interesting, an interesting thing that I did is I never read those pages. I'd skip those pages, the ones that had violence in them. I know, it's interesting that I kind of cherry picked the indoctrination. I cherry picked it for my children. I didn't want them to see those violent pictures. So I'm wondering if it's just my type of personality that knew that those things were not good for kids, and I didn't, of course, on their own, they might look at the book and be scared, I mean, I never read those Bible stories to them. I skipped those stories. I don't know why I did that. I cherry-picked the indoctrination because some of it really is impossible to swallow. And it feels like you're poisoning someone's mind. And maybe that's why I didn't do that with my children. That was interesting. How did you do with yours? Did you make them study those stories of The violent
yeah.
one. Oh, you
Yep.
did?
Because
See, I wouldn't do it.
I was a complete believer in the Watchtower. Absolutely. If they said the sky was black, it was black. You know, if they told me to jump up and down to please Jehovah, I jumped up and down.
If they told you to drink you drank the Kool-Aid, all of it.
Oh, yeah. I was very, very hard on my kids. We did everything. I tried so hard to do everything the way I was taught. And I'm very, very sorry. The only thing I didn't feel right about, never even occurred to me to do, was to talk to my kids about getting baptized, much less think I was going to push them. I never even brought it up because I studied with them, I prayed with them, I talked to them about Jehovah, but I tried to keep everything positive. I never talked about Armageddon, or if you don't do this or if you do that, you're going to die in Armageddon. But aside from that, I was a full-on, teamy, strict Watchtower mom.
Yeah. I don't know if it was just that I was a protected, maybe overprotective mother, and I screened what went into their little minds, and I skipped those pages. I guess I was just doing it out of intuition. And I'm also thinking that because I came in as a teenager, I came out of the love and peace hippie era. I had that mentality when I became a witness. And so I think I came in with the love, peace, and freedom core, thinking, this lends itself to that. The witness world. I was just came in fresh. I didn't have any religious background, so that was another thing. But it's interesting to me that I also didn't shun my kids when they left. My kids, I have three. Two were baptized. One didn't get baptized, but the one, they eventually all left, and then I left. But what I'm trying to say is that when they left, I didn't shun them, and I had to hide that. I had to hide it from the congregation. So I had to. So it's interesting to me that I didn't give in to peer pressure so much. I didn't care what other people thought. If they found out, somebody found out, I saw you with your son, da da da, and I said, yeah, that's, so what? I didn't defend myself, and I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of their ramifications, because I had even though I was in this dictatorial world, I had my own relationship to God. That's interesting looking back on that. I always had my own relationship to God. So I would say, I would kind of be clean with God. I'd be kind of like, well, I know you're a loving God, and I know that you love my children, and therefore you wouldn't force me to shun my kids. I actually thought God was different from the one that they presented. I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't fit in. So interesting that I think that might be happening to a lot of witnesses. A lot of witnesses may have had their own version in their head of who God was.
Yeah.
Because I never crossed over and viewed the government. I got out. I never made the crossover to the governing body. Like, even though I was in the witness world, going to meetings, preaching for God, I never crossed over in my mind. It never went there. It's like, I always put God above whatever was going on. I put my own understanding of God, who I thought God was, who I perceived God to be. The core perception for me at the time was that God was love. So anything that came out in the Watchtower that was contrary to love, I would reject it. Now, I didn't verbalize that. I didn't go around telling people that, you know.
Yeah.
But I had a Bible study whose son got disfellowshipped, and she kept a relationship with him, and I never said a word. But I was her Bible study teacher. I was helping her come in the truth. And her son, you know, went wayward. He got baptized, and then he, well, what you would call wayward. I don't think he went wayward, but anyway, he got disfellowshipped, and she stayed in contact with him. And I never said it. I was neutral, and I would never judge her or tell her you're doing the wrong thing or anything like that. So, in a way, I was true to myself, even though I was under a dictatorial situation. I kept my own boundaries with what I thought was right and wrong. And now I see why, of course, after coming out of the religion, you know, but I did have a nervous breakdown coming out. But there were a lot of factors involved in why that happened. It wasn't just the abuse of the organization. It was my life. You know, a lot of things collapsed and went through. Well, I won't go into it right now, but, you know. So anyway, when you talked about this topic comes up quite often about, you know, how they are grooming us or grooming the rank and file to believe a certain way about the new system. Well, anyway, it cracks me up too. Like one of the recent, you know, in the last few years, there was a photo of a man in the paradise with a khaki pants, and he had a leash, and he was walking the dog down the street.
Huh.
Do you remember that one?
No, I'm just wondering, why would you need to have your dog on a leash in the paradise? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No,
it's in one of the diagrams on the Watchtower or the Wake. I can't remember which one. But anyway, it cracked me up. It cracked me up when I saw it because I was out, you know. I was completely out of the religion. And I'm looking at that picture and I'm like, okay, now, you know, that has, for my imagination of paradise, that it cracked me up because they thought they could get away with that. Like, I don't know how they printed that. Like, what are you talking about? You know, how does anybody imagine a man with khaki pants, you know, and a dress shirt and a leash walking down the sidewalk? I'm like, wait a minute, because the new world is not related to this world. Like, I don't relate the two. You know, how do they put that in there? You know, but I can see why that narrative that you read. You know, any imagination of, you know, that anybody could imagine. They want you to imagine, like you said, the fearful things to keep the fear going. But my picture of paradise and new order is a complete freedom, like freedom in the highest level of freedom. That's how I pictured it. I had a whole new picture of what it would be like to be under God's kingdom. You know, under a government based on love and freedom. You know, I really, in a way, I kind of hope my version of paradise is real. I hope it's true, my version. But I don't know. I don't claim to know anything now. You know?
Well, your version makes a lot more sense, you know, because we do read in the scriptures that God is love. 1 John 4:8 does say God is love. And then you have John 3:16 where it says that God loved the world. God loved the world, not just Jehovah's Witnesses, not just followers of the Watchtower, everyone. He didn't exclude homosexuals. He didn't exclude any race. He didn't exclude weirdo people or whatever. The scripture said, for God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten son. And as far as Jesus, you know, it doesn't say, the Bible doesn't say that God emptied Jesus and put him in the belly of Mary. The Bible says that Jesus himself emptied himself of his spiritual life next to his Father, and he came down and willingly was born in a slave form as imperfect man. And when he was walking around among us, I think it's John 1:14, so the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Now, some of the witnesses say that, well, Jesus said that his Father was greater than he was. Well, of course he said that, because when he said those scriptures, he was in a lesser form of God. He was in the form of a slave. And then he willingly not just dies, but goes through the terrible torture and suffering and pain willingly, when at any time, as he said to whoever it was that chopped off the ear of the soldier, he said, don't you know that at any time I could call legions of angels to defend me? So all that time when he's being spat on and beaten horribly and the whole thing, at any time in the midst of his horrible pain and them making fun of him, he could have said, screw this, I'm going to really torture you. You're going to be sorry. So what was the motive? It was the motive of love for all of mankind. And then to be willingly nailed to the cross after being so horribly beaten and made fun of. And he does it. And then before he takes his last breath, he says, it is done. It is finished. He completed the one and only plan of salvation that God had for mankind according to the Bible. Now, when you talk about freedom, so we've already looked at love, the love not only of Heavenly Father, but the love of Jesus Christ for humanity. Now we got to look at freedom. You brought up freedom. I don't know how many scriptures I've read that equate serving Christ or being with Christ or following Christ, becoming a Christian, a child of Christ, and being free. It's freedom in Christ. Freedom in Christ. Freedom in Christ. Then I ran across a scripture. I ran across a scripture in the New World Translation, 2 Corinthians 17. 2 Corinthians 17 in the New World Translation says so clearly, now Jehovah is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of Jehovah is, there is freedom. And I went, oh my God, that one scripture alone proves without a doubt that this organization that they call God's organization, the only true religion, no, it can't be, because the one, let's say the only, one thing it shows or proves that God's Spirit is with the organization is that the people in the religion, in the organization, have freedom. They have no freedom. Like the brother said 2 weeks ago, the only real freedom we have in the religion is to worship the governing body, because it's always about them, and them.
So it's definitely a authoritarian dictatorship. That's what it is. That's what the kingdom that Jehovah's Witnesses teach is, a fascist authoritarian government. But in my mind, I let that go. I let that cognitive, difference go, but I kept it to myself inside. I knew that if God was a God of love, that when I did something, if my motive was love, I'm on God's side. So in other words, he's not going to condemn me. I knew I wasn't condemned for breaking every little JW rule. I knew that. Because that's not what my relationship was to God. And another problem I had, and I should have woke up many years before I did and got out, but I didn't, was that I truly in my heart did not believe God was going to destroy everyone. That's how my mind worked. It was like, no, that's not a God of love. He's not going to commit genocide to the whole planet. I knew that in my heart. He wasn't going to do that. So, but I didn't preach that to people, and I didn't give my opinions. But when I had a Bible study and things would come up, and if somebody asked me in a call or something, well, is God going to destroy everybody? And I'd say, I don't believe that. I just say that. I don't believe that. I say, I believe he's a loving God and he's going to judge each person on the individual basis. That's what I would come from my heart. I would say that to people. So I wouldn't support anything that the Jehovah's Witnesses taught when it came through me and filtered through me. I didn't promote that stuff, and I didn't shun my children. I didn't shun people that got disfellowshipped in the congregation. I mean, here I am. I'm confessing. I'm confessing right now. And now I'm not embarrassed about it or ashamed of it or feel guilty about anything that I believed in my heart, because I see that I applied the scriptures the way that they should have been applied. I didn't see it at the time that I was so rebellious in heart, but really I didn't agree with a lot of things in the sense that I preached them if I was talking to somebody or studying with somebody, even my own children. I didn't present their version of an authoritarian oppression, over me. I didn't feel that, but I was in it. I'm living in it. You're living in it when you're in it. You are living in it, but it doesn't mean that from your heart you're promoting it. So, these are the things that I wanted to share. About my version of a lot of things was different from what they presented to me. I never took it in my heart, any of the things like that were violent, negative, fearful, all of that. So I pictured, well, you're a mother, I'm a mother, and we kind of understand that unconditional love we give our children, And so for me, I tried to apply that to God, that, we're made in his image, so he has this thing. He, as a parent, we viewed him as our father. I used to imagine that in order for him to be a loving God and a loving parental person in our lives, he would have to be loving and forgiving and merciful. So a lot of the things that are in the Bible, which I'm not going to go into my own discoveries about God and religion. I'm not going to go into that right now. But at the time when I was a full faith believer in God, I had to filter a lot from I had to filter parts of the Bible out. I couldn't accept a lot of the things that were taught in the Bible, and also by a cult. A cult would take a scripture and then twist it to their own benefit. But for me, after I woke up from Jehovah's Witnesses, I went into looking for spirituality from my own, critical thinking. I went into it with critical thinking. And so not only even now, I reject a lot of things that are presented in the Bible as being representing God, representing a loving God. It's separate for me now. The Bible is not fully connected to a loving God. So it's interesting. I'm trying to explain something I probably shouldn't get into, but anyway, I think that's just maybe a lot more people than me actually had that, when they were in the under the indoctrination.
No doubt.
No doubt. Yeah. No doubt.
So I just want to take a minute. Excuse me, Christine. I just need to make a call out to anyone who might be waiting
Oh, yeah.
This-
Thanks for taking my
I've got-
call. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to leave. I just want to check in. Is there anyone that is waiting or wanting to comment? *6. This is your show.
Yes, Anne-Marie.
Yes.
How you doing?
How feeling, Rick?
Oh, I'm feeling a lot better. Connie's got me on a special diet and doing a cleanse, and it's not going well with me, but I'm doing a lot better than I was a couple of weeks ago. And I want everyone to know I really miss being on 6 screens for doing my program. So me and Connie are all ready to go for the next at 10 o'clock. We have another program on. And Rick, if you're out there, you haven't given us a link yet. My comment is this. A lot of those books, we've been talking about Armageddon and how terrible it is. You plant an idea in a young person's head about Armageddon. They're very uncertain of the future, which gives them stress and anxiety. And it's a form of PTSD. And that will mess up your mind. You wonder why Jehovah's Witnesses have problems with cognizant dissonance and how they're so susceptible to gaslighting. It's because the Watchtower flips your mind all the time. What you thought was truth becomes not so true or not so clear. It gets murky. It's everything that they say, the governing body is that nebulous area of, gee, I don't know if I understand that. Well, it must be me because I'm not smart enough, or I'm not spiritual enough, or I haven't said enough prayers, or I haven't gone out and field service like I should. If I went out and field service more, well, you know what? I'd have more of Jehovah's Holy Spirit, and I would understand this stuff. I kind of draw an analogy between what the Watchtower tells you and the belief that young children have in Santa Claus. And we all know it's a fairy tale, but the premise is that if you do the right thing and obey your parents, you're going to be gifted at Christmas time. But if you don't do the right thing and you fight with your sister or you don't do your chores, your stocking is going to be full with coal. I mean, that was very, very real when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. And to people listening to our 6 screens right now, they should realize that this fantasy, paradise Earth, where you have tomatoes grow, they're going to be bigger than a human, and you're going to be petting lions and walking on top of cobras and all that kind of BS, and move a better word, fantasies that they're putting forth. Then they mix it up with other stuff. I can remember like it was yesterday. I went to an eldest servants meeting at one of the Kingdom Halls, about 20, 30 miles away from my house. And the circuit overseer got up, and like there was just elders and servants, nobody else in there. He said, "You elders will be kings in the earth. You'll be directing the cleanup work. And you ministerial servants, you will be princes. You'll be under the elders." And I'm thinking, gee, I'm a ministerial servant now. What do I have to do to be an elder? So I don't have to pick up the dead bodies. I did have that experience when I was in Vietnam, picking up dead bodies. And if a body has been in the sun 3, 4, maybe 5 hours, or even overnight, it stinks so bad that it's like somebody punches you right in the nose. It actually, it'll knock you over. And I said, I will never, when I left Vietnam, I will never sign up for another tour of this crap. And I'll never put myself, in this kind of a predicament again. Now I hear, when I wasn't a ministerial servant, how, the birds of the air are going to come down and be plucking the eyeballs out, and it's going to be horrible. And I'd always think, well, if there's no bulldozers, there's no gasoline, there's no electricity, how do you get rid of these gigantic buildings that maybe they all collapse? Well, if they do all collapse, how are you going to turn it into a meadow again? How are you going to do this stuff? And we're supposed to do the cleanup work. I mean, you know, Jehovah, if he wanted to, could do a miracle, and all the cities would be gone, and there'd be meadows and rivers and lakes and everything would be beautiful if he wanted to. But he wanted us to do the cleanup work. Well, that is no, you know, after Armageddon, that's no paradise. At least that's the way, you know, it was projected to me when I was coming into it. That is not a paradise. And frankly, when you had that on the back of your mind, you're doing things. Maybe I had a very sinful nature, but I would not do things that were bad because I didn't want to be destroyed at Armageddon. It's not because I loved God, and I did not want to be an elder because I love people. I wanted to help my brothers and sisters, and you know, for philanthropic reasons. I didn't want to pick up dead bodies, so please God, make me know how many hours of field service do you require of me to do so I can be an elder. You know, that was my thinking. And that's a lot of the thinking of a lot of the JW elders that are out there. The YouTube is full of stories of elders that treated people so damn mean, and no loving, no kindness, nothing from you guys. Of course, I don't want to paint with a very broad paintbrush. There are some elders that would give their life for their flock. There are some elders that are like that. I've met them. But conversely, there are many, many elders that'll diddle your little child in the congregations, and society knows it, and the society's not trying to weed them out. What they're trying to do is they cover it up. Life can go on forever. I just hope everybody hangs in there till 10 o'clock when me and Connie have our program. It's going to be a lot more of Watchtower hypocrisy. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Well, thank you, Dick. Is that 10 o'clock? Is that Eastern Standard Time or what?
Yeah, it would be somewhere between 9:30 and 10 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Yeah, 7 o'clock your time.
Oh, Constance is always right on it.
Hey, Dick.
Love you, Anne-Marie. Hi, Constance. Love you too. I hope I get her right number sometime because I miss talking to Constance. I really do. Well, I miss you too, Dick.
Well, we enjoyed your show tonight, honey. That was really great bringing that up. That was fascinating. It really was great, Anne-Marie.
I wasn't sure if it would be okay to share it, but I just realized I can't be the only one that never really thought it through. But when I read it, gave me chills. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was really good. Very apropos, you know, and you read it with a lot of passion, and I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you both. I need to ask Rick how we're doing on time. We're pretty much way over time. I don't know if he's there. Rick, are you there?
Right here. Yeah. In fact, I want to mention too that I did send the link out to Dick. I sent it to Connie, so she does have it. I sent it off a while back. But anyways, Amy, why don't you go another 10 minutes or so? A lot of people have been wanting to call in. So see if we can go another 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll go to JW World News.
Oh, Rick, you're always so generous. Thank you so much. Dick or Constance, did you guys have any further thoughts?
Well, I just want to plug my program. I don't have any further thoughts. Just that we're going to be talking about constant dissidence. We're going to be talking about Rutherford's letter to Hitler, and we're going to be talking about the governing body and what they're like and what we've gleaned. I would also like to throw out to the audience that YouTube has some wonderful, wonderful channels and wonderful program people that put together these videos. They're really wonderful. And I would just say to folks, if you're watching these YouTube channels, you have to be, even if you're brain dead, almost brain dead, you have to realize that Jehovah's Witnesses is a very destructive cult. They're in this for the money and the money only. And these governing body members are sick perverts. They're just a very, very bad organization. But if you're realizing that, and you're listening to six screens and you're watching YouTube, please tell somebody. Don't keep it a secret. If you have to send an anonymous letter to friends of yours that are in there, if you don't want to sign the letter using your name, fine. Just tell them, give them the phone number of six screens, or tell them go on YouTube and see all these ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. JW Examiner is an outstanding one that I was watching today. Fran and Joe are on. There's just so many people exposing the darkness, the lies, the hypocrisy, the hurt this organization is causing. Please don't keep it to yourself. That's something I was going to say for my program, but we get the next 5 or 10 minutes, and yeah, yes, sir, we have the link. I would just say this: we are 6 months away from the get together, the conference in the Boston area, and it's going to run you about $200 a day for a room. It's 3 nights. Me and Connie, we're going to get up there a day early, and we're going to stay a day late. We might even stay later, depending on the weather. But I would say to folks, put the money aside now, because it always happens. Satan's something. The car is going to break down. Something's going to come up. You're going to have to miss work and not have your regular paychecks. Something will come up. Put the money aside now in a special account and don't touch it. And then, plan your travel. I mean, we're going to go. We're going to drive 1,000 miles north because I want to visit some friends while I'm up there. But if you're flying in or you're taking the train or whatever, find out what the cost is going to be and put that money aside. And I would also say to folks that are listening, maybe life is tough. Maybe you're a single person and, you're having a hard time getting by. Maybe if you come up to six screens up in Tewksbury, Mass for the conference, stay alive till 2025. If you might meet somebody. I met Connie on six screens, and we have a wonderful marriage. It's been going good now for 2 years, and I'm very indebted to Rick for that. And I'd also like to remind people that a lot of what's going to be happening up in Tewksbury, Mass, is coming out of Rick's pocket. We're paying for our own hotel rooms. That's true. But who's paying for the auditorium and the police detail and the rental equipment there's just a lot of expense. And for me and Connie, we're going to make sure Rick gets a card with something in it. Rick never asked me to say this. He didn't. I'm just saying this on my own, and I'll never say it again. But, just remember that it's about $500-600 a month to have six screens. And he put so many of his own man hours in it, and Sue too. And I just think he should be remembered when you get up to Boston. So that's my little diatribe. Sorry, Emery, if anybody else wants to get on it. If they do, hit *6. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. A lot of people, I have read, especially on Reddit, when I mention six screens, I hear so much stupid stuff regarding Rick, like, oh, he's this and he's that, and he exaggerates and he embellishes and he lies, and it's just so annoying. And I try not to be negative on Reddit to people who say these things. All I say is my experience, how grateful I was to find Rick Barron and the six screens, how much it's helped me. I've enjoyed it. I've been grateful. I think that's just the word. I'm grateful. I never would have met you or Constance or any of the Six Screens family or Rick and Susan. I never would have met any of them if it hadn't been for Six Screens. And I'm grateful. That's why I'm so down and happy every Saturday. Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to speak? We have a few minutes.
Okay, y'all. And
this
I am
Dallas?
Marie.
Hi.
It is me. I just like that story you've been reading to us, and it sounds like anything the opposite of paradise. It's
Okay.
very, and it was some scary horror stories that were shared. It was your diary that you were sharing, and that's like being under the rulership of not Jesus Christ, but Ayatollah Khomeini. That's what it's like.
Oh, it is like
That, and because there have been ones who haven't been deceived years ago. I've even had an aunt having, and I know about Germans because my cousin's half German and my aunt's ex, he's half German from Germany. And one thing is that she was studying before their divorce, and she's had this, when she at a kingdom home, she went into the restroom, he caused the disruption and said, "My wife is not going to go here." See, he knew it for what he knows it for what it is, and is one that would, so that could have been, hopefully it woke some of them up.
yeah.
And God bless the ones who call those disruptions, because that could be God's blessing right there.
Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like to add, Dallas?
That would be, and about that convention, it sounds great, but I know I'm caring for my mom, so, and also it's sad that I most likely may not get to make it there, but I would be there if I could.
I know you would. I don't know. I haven't asked Rick, but I'm wondering if it's going to be live streamed on YouTube. That would be a wonderful way for everyone to be able to have the experience of being there. But like I said, I haven't asked Rick about it.
Anne-Marie, in fact, I'll tell Dallas right now. Yeah, the whole event, we're going to try to live stream every bit of it. So for those that can't come, we do have 2 technicians I'm working with now. We're starting to practice and get everything in play, so there'll be no snafus, but we should have a pretty good production. I'll have some people working with us there to make sure that everybody that can't come will be able to catch us on YouTube, Facebook, on also looks like Twitter as well. So we're going to be live streaming for those that can't come. We're looking at even having a telephone line set up as well. So it's going to be a good, fun time. And even those that can't make it in person, you'll really enjoy it.
Bless your heart for that provision right there.
Well, what an exciting thing to look forward. And Rick, thank you so very much. This is like the most awesome thing.
Well, I have to tell you, Anne-Marie, we got about 300 people right now that will be coming. At least that's what they said. I'm sending tickets out almost every day. I'm getting people writing into the 6 screens. If you notice on the bottom of all of our programs, most of the programs, we have a scrolling message talking about the convention, and it's playing right now on YouTube. On your program, it's very scrolling across the bottom, speaking about the convention. Still alive in 2025, and I know that's really helping a lot. A lot of people that get into the archives, they see that, and they've been writing me. And geez, we've got people coming from New Zealand, we got them coming from Australia, from the United Kingdom, from Canada, from pretty much all over. And I'll tell you what. In fact, we're starting to. If someone thinks they won't be able to afford the room, we are now getting some people writing and saying that they will share a room. We actually even had a woman that I talked to last week, and she lives about an hour away. It's kind of far away. It's about an hour, but she has a big farm. And she even said that if someone would like to stay there with her, that's a possibility too. So these are all of a sudden things are starting to come together, and people starting to say, "Hey, listen, come and you can stay in my room, and so you can share expenses." So we got a lot of good things going on, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on JW World News tonight.
Well, that sounds so wonderful. You know, in the old days before the Watchtower was pushing witnesses to get hotels, in the old days, they used to have us going door to door asking if anybody would be willing to share a room, or, you know, if any of the delegates could stay with them. And a lot of the local witnesses in the area of the convention would offer to have people stay at their home. That's how I got to attend a lot of the conventions. So, you know, there are ways and there are good people, and God bless that sweetheart woman that's offering to let people stay at her farm. How sweet of her.
God bless her heart too.
Yeah. Well, we need to end the show. We've definitely gone over 10 minutes.
Okay.
I want to thank
you,
everyone. Thank you, Dallas. I want to thank everyone who called in today to our show. Again, today is Saturday, February 22nd, 2025. This is Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. And I want to thank Grace for calling in from Sweden. I want to thank King of the Dots, who wrote that really great poem. I hope you guys listen on YouTube to the show and listen to his poem. I thought it was really apropos. I want to thank Rick. I want to thank Pixie. I want to thank Ken and Shannon, who gave us our topic last Touched by the Tentacles show 2 weeks ago. I want to thank Christine for giving her thoughts. Very, very interesting. I want to thank Dick Borgie and Constance for calling in and giving their thoughts. And of course, we want to thank our last caller, Dallas. We need to go now to Rick and JW World News. And thank you, everyone, for calling in. Rick?
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. Did a great job tonight. A lot of people, coming into the 6 screens tonight. It's really good to see that. And as the weather gets colder, I mean, it's been cold all winter up here, but it seems like we get more traffic, more people coming in when it's a cold night. So we do have a lot of people coming in tonight. If for some reason you're on the telephone line and you're saying, I really want to speak up here tonight, there's so many people coming on, it might take a little while. So just stay unmuted, and I can see that you are unmuted, and we will get to you. We'll call out your area code. But what you can do is make sure you keep your hand over the receiver so you don't hear a lot of background noise. But don't be disappointed if you have to wait a little bit. We have an extremely lot of people coming through here tonight because of the cold weather, I guess, across the country. So we want to thank all those coming in tonight to Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. Now, we have more programs coming up tonight. We got JW World News. That's coming up next. We're going to give you the latest that's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. And then, of course, around 9:30, 10 o'clock tonight, the Borgies. That'll be Dick and Constance Borgie. They'll be exposing the Watchtower. So they got their program coming up around 10 tonight. So by all means, stay tuned to that. We want to thank you all for coming in. Don't you guys ever give in, up or out. Keep waving that flag of victory, as we always say. We're going to JW World News right now, so we'll end this program right here. But stay with us. Stay on this YouTube channel and Facebook channel, as well as our radio telephone network, and you'll hear more information concerning what's going on in the Watchtower tonight. Thank you.